If you only want to know what you get, here is a TLDR. Pause here to read, and I'll explain everything as we go. Quick disclaimer, this is only a guide on a good archer setup. It is not a guide on how to do the dungeon or the boss fight. Now with that in mind, let's move on with the video. First off, weapons. Here's what you will need. You need minimum 3 bone ranks, and you can get up to 5. Personally, I run 4. Overload 5 is a must-have. Power 7 is not. Power 5 is all you really need. You don't really need Power 7. Soul Eater is recommended as it increases your damage by a lot. I would also recommend the Death Bow for the floor 7 boss fight. Go head on over to Ophelia for the Death Bow. It costs 5 mil to purchase from the NPC. It is cheaper for me because I have Seal of the Family. If you want Catacombs 28, or if you want to go cheap, you can get Super Undead Bow, or even the Undead Bow. They're both much cheaper and have lower requirements to use. I recommend a Death Bow because it actually deals the most damage compared to the other bows. For the armor set, I would recommend Enchant Necron if you have the money to spare. It has better damage and ineffective health compared to Shadow Assassin. Not to mention that it reduces the damage you receive from wither mobs by 10%. If you can't afford Necron armor, I would highly recommend Shadow Assassin armor as it is the best alternative. Shadow Assassin armor is good enough to complete floor 7 as an archer, and as of right now it is much cheaper to get than Necron's armor. On screen I'll be comparing the bin prices for both armor sets, and I'll be showing you the prices for each set at the time of recording. If you can't afford the Shadow Assassin chestplate or the Necron chestplate, a good substitute would be the Zombie Knight chestplate. A Zombie Knight chestplate is very cheap comparing it to the Shadow Assassin chestplate or Necron chestplate, being at only 4.5 mil comparing to 42 mil or 100 mil plus. Contrary to popular belief, the full Shadow Assassin set is actually better than a 3/4 set with Tarantula Helmet, especially if you farm kills with the Shadow Assassin armor, as each kill increases your strength by 1. Even if I am to be mistaken, it isn't that big of a difference in damage or effective health. It is not only cheaper, it only requires a floor 5 completion instead of Catacombs 26, and it is easier to start, being Wither Essence instead of Spider Essence. The prices for Wither and Necron set should be on screen right now. To make Necron set, you need Wither armor and 8 Diamantes handle per piece. The requirements to use is a simple floor 7 completion. To craft it, just surround the Wither armor with Diamantes handle. As for pets, if you want to maximize damage output, use an Ender Dragon for all boss fights except for Necron's boss fight. It is the best pet for damage with the exception of the Necron's boss fight. For room clear, I personally opt with a legendary golem with Shelmet, as NTKB is pretty nice to have and is actually pretty good for mini bosses. Feel free to use whatever you want for room clear. I am not stopping you. For Necron's boss fight, I would highly recommend a Wither Skeleton pet. It is actually the best pet for damage for Necron's boss fight, out damaging the Ender Dragon pet. I'm not sure if the 30% damage reduction applies to Wither mobs, and please use Spooky Cupcakes instead of Antique Remedies. I also forgot to mention a good substitute for the Ender Dragon pet should you not have one. A great substitute would be the legendary Griffin pet. It has very similar damage output to the legendary Ender Dragon, and it is much cheaper to get. If your main concern is not damage but survivability, I would recommend 2 pets, first being the legendary Blue Whale, second being the epic Baby Yeti. The legendary Blue Whale is really good for effective health. It is very cheap, being at only 15 mil from the Traveling Zoo, whereas the Baby Yeti is around 50 mil from the auction house for the cheapest bin. For the Baby Yeti, I would recommend an epic over a legendary, as the Baby Yeti is a fishing pet, and fishing pets are really hard to level up. A legendary pet requires around 25 mil XP to level up to 100, whereas an epic is only around 19 mil, making it much easier to level up. But if you like, you can also go for the legendary Baby Yeti if you want it for the collection. The third perk is quite useless and the stats are exactly the same, so I would recommend an epic over legendary. Sorry, I forgot to show the Flower of Truth early on. The Flower of Truth is really great for archers, for room clears, and lifesteal. It is also good for close quarter combat. And that pretty much summarizes this video. Thank you very much for watching. See you all later.